Welcome to Hustle Radio, a podcast about the New York hustle mentality centered in the e-commerce industry, the official podcast of the E-com Cooperative. Introducing your hosts, Frank Acosta and David Dayon.
What's up, Frank?
What's up, man?
How we doing?
What episode is this? Because I'm out of. Don't even ask me.
Episode 29.
Wow, we're hitting the 30 mark, man.
Frank, who are we joined by today in episode 29 of New York Hustle Radio? Tell us.
First of all, we're going. I want everybody to know that the podcast is going overseas. We're hitting people in different areas. This is the New York Hustle Radio, but we're bringing people that have that New York hustle in different areas.
Yes, you don't need to be living in New York to be on
the New York Hustle
Radio. You just have to be that hustle mentality that's famous in New York. It's famous in a lot of other places. It happens to be pretty famous where our guest is from. Would you please introduce who the guest is, Frank?
Yeah, for sure. We have Yael Cabilly with us.
Hi.
Yael, how are we doing?
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Where are you joining us from right now?
I'm in Tel Aviv.
Okay.
Nice. David,
I'm not in New York, but I do see myself as half a New Yorker because I lived there for a while. So missing New York, maybe not the weather in New York right now.
Not the weather.
For sure.
Well, me and Frank were talking yesterday about how much we miss Israel. We were arguing about who misses Israel more. But without further ado, let's get the vibe right, guys.
All right.
We want some Ed Sheeran today, right?
Yeah.
But we always like do it a little bit,
Me and my friends at the table doing
the trap version.
Conversation with just me and now I'm singing like coming out on my baby creep on my waist.
Oh, you got extra today.
You're mixing. Wow.
All right, so that was Ed Sheeran on trap version. I couldn't do the country vibe.
David was a DJ a couple of months back before he got into Amazon Experts.
That was not a testament to my DJ skills.
I hear you. Shout out to Yehuda, man. Yehuda.
What's going on, Yehuda?
Facebook, man. Facebook has been a thing lately, man.
Definitely been a thing.
Over here pushing LinkedIn a little more. Maybe we should show some love on that platform. Yeah, talk to us, man. First of all, what do you do and what are you dedicated to these days? I know you're a former New Yorker now in a different country, but I know that mentality of hustling. I do know that you run two businesses. I don't know if how correct I am with that. I remember having that conversation with you. That alone qualifies you for New York Hustle Radio. All right.
Yeah. I founded and co-founded two businesses, not running both. But yeah, what do I do?
Same thing, man. Same thing.
Yeah.
We thought when we started working on the E-com Cooperative, we're like, oh yeah, something that is for business owners. We're going to be able to handle it, and it's easily become like a lifetime project, right? And it's the hustle is insane, man. So company that you're running today, and what do they stand for?
Yeah. So originally I'm a lawyer. I'm a trademark lawyer, actually. I got into the Amazon space in 2016, end of 2015. And so I started first a law firm focusing on Amazon and legal problems. So we do like suspensions, trademarks, copyrights, IP. We found very quickly that intellectual property is extremely important on Amazon. So the firm has served probably about 6,000 clients over the years. And then in 2018, I founded with two other partners, Fortinet, which is an investment banking firm that helps sellers with the sale of their business. So very busy with both. What happened when we started Fortinet in 2018. That was probably right before the craziness that we see right now in our industry around M&As. So somebody told me recently, right before it was cool to do Amazon exits. It's been 6 very busy years, but we really feel we're helping sellers on both activities.
I think that I was actually talking to someone from your team the other day, telling them a little bit about this. I said, um, right now, I think some people look at it as an advantage to have somebody to talk to when they're thinking about selling their business. And some thoughts we're hearing is eventually, maybe in a year's time, it's not going to be looked like an advantage. It's going to be looked at as a necessity. And it's just something, just like any other field, you go through the proper due diligence.
Professional.
Yeah. It's something that I think that's the way things are moving. And
I think
obviously,
go
ahead.
I think that already today most large businesses use a consultant, because there's for several reasons. The big main reason is that you get much more. That's it, bottom line. Buyers are going directly to sellers because they eventually they pay less. The numbers, like we've seen, we've had many cases where the sellers actually got an offer and then started working with Fortinet, and we got 30 to 60% more. These are the numbers. Not because we're genius, just because we do our process. You do an auction between all buyers at the same time. It's automatically you get more than if you work with 1, 2, or 5, and that's regardless of all the problems and issues that arise during a sale of a business, that are sometimes very, very difficult to deal with for someone alone that never done it. So with every deal you learn something new. With every deal there's a new issue, a new problem that we face and that we overcome in most cases. And then you learn from it, and then the next time you make sure you avoid it. So I can say that at this point, what we've seen is that while multiples have practically doubled in the last year or year and a half, buyers' requirements are much more strict. They don't buy anything. The due diligence is much more difficult. So what we do is that we start the process with an internal due diligence. We make sure that everything is right: the health, the trademark, the IP, everything you can think of is at least known. Any problem that you won't be surprised, and many of the things you can deal with in advance. If you sell in 6 months, you can, and you don't have a trademark for something, you can file for it now. So it's becoming already not easy to handle it alone, except for smaller businesses.
Got it. Okay. And then I'm curious, you mentioned from when you started to now, how different it is. How different is it? Like from your first exit that you guys assisted with, however long ago, 6 years plus ago, right? However long ago it was.
The first exit was in 2017. So yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
That's where it started. Yeah.
So about 5 years ago. So from that exit to now, I can imagine the protocol and the due diligence even process has probably a night and day change, right? Just thinking back, and if it's too crazy of a question or too detailed of a question, we can skip it. But like, how much has that evolved? Like, do you see what can you take away? What has evolved for the better? What has changed, in your opinion, from one of the early ones to now?
Yeah. So many things. The first thing is that there's an entire industry of companies buying those businesses. So while in 2018, when Fortinet really started, we were talking with probably 3-4 relevant strong buyers, and that's it. That's what you had back then.
Now you have like 80. No, there's 8.
Only the aggregators alone are 90. Only the aggregators, and there are many more buyers than that. So it's you go to market with a good product or with a good business. Imagine the number of offers you have today and what the auction looks like. And so the first thing that happened is the demand for these businesses. The second that really goes together with the demand is the price. We were talking, in 2018, if you sold the business for 3x, that was great. That was a great result. Today, if it's not double, it's not great. 3x is probably it's still a multiple that you see today, but you'll see it for much smaller businesses, not those that we deal with, but I know for on the platforms for small businesses you would see 3x, and for businesses that are maybe not growing or have or are in distress or any kind of or problems or just less demand. But so that's another change. I would say that both buyers and sellers are much more educated. So and even in 2019, when we spoke in New York about exits, I remember most people haven't heard about the possibility of selling the business,
I think it got very popular over the past, I want to say 2 years. It got extremely, it blew up. The whole buying an Amazon business space. I know people who don't even have anything to do with Amazon who are getting involved in, we'll help you plan your exit or whatever. And it's really attracting all walks of life. Like, you can't ignore. It's in the news every day. This is like someone was saying, this is like the celebrity part of the Amazon world.
Completely.
Just look at Prosper. Look at the Prosper shows. Shout out to Prosper.
An aggregator show.
All the parties that happen are just a chance for the aggregators to show who's who.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. This has changed a lot. Again, just going back to 2019. This wasn't. When we were speaking about exits, it was the most basic presentation of, let's start by the fact that you can sell your business. Most people didn't know. Like, that was my first slide. You can sell the business. Exactly. And then talking about valuations, etc. People are now, they get bombarded by emails twice, 3 times, 4 times a week. We want to buy your business by different players. So they've heard. If they go to any conference, they heard. All they see around them are aggregators. So I think that's great. Most sellers are now, so they hear about it and then they learn about it. They learn how much they're worth, more or less. They learn about the different valuations, the different structures of a deal. So our discussions are completely different now with sellers. We do see things that have not changed. The common mistakes that sellers make when they leave a lot of money on the table are still the same that they've been 2 years ago. So these are the same, even in the way they calculate the profit. If every dollar is $6 or $7 or whatever your multiple is, and you calculated your profit and 100K you saw as an expense, but it could actually go back to the profit. It can be added back to the profit. You just lost 700K or 600K just because you didn't do it right. And that's before a negotiation, before anything. So these are mistakes that we still see. We saw 2 years ago. We still see them. And I think that, you were talking about going to professionals. I think there's something amazing about sellers, which is that they created everything from A to Z. It's a real management of a real business from the smallest thing to finding a product, sourcing, logistics. and then marketing, PPC, and then dealing with Amazon and legal and trademarks. So sellers are used to do everything themselves. So for them, selling the business is often, the another thing that they would do themselves. I think it's important. The bottom line is it's important not to leave too much on the table, and make sure you really got a good deal. That's So these are more or less the changes that we've seen. The biggest one from the last 6 months is what I was referring to: higher multiples, much longer and complicated due diligence. It was 30 days. It's no longer 30 days.
I think, like you're saying, is very accurate because, going back to the beginning, I think that today it's just a growing. Like, I'm just thinking about, like, while you were saying what you were saying, I think today people looking to exit know they need help. They know that it's beyond what they're capable of. It's a problem, and one of my Amazon mottos is know what you do best, delegate the rest. And this is definitely something that you need help with. So I think that I was a little naive in what I was saying in the beginning of the episode. I think it already, like you said, it is a situation where anyone who's serious about it and taking it seriously knows they need to do their proper due diligence but not potentially leave all that money on the table, because that's a good point. When you're dealing with the multiple situation there, you're leaving 100,000 can be 700,000 or more, and it's a big deal. It's
the only exception I think would be when you have a distressed business, and you're having problems with cash flow, and you know that the business is going down. You're not going to get an amazing multiple anyway, and then you get a good offer, and it's on the table, and you're not sure. In these cases, I say, you may lose 300K, 400K, 2 million, 3 million, depending on your size. But if it's in distress and you don't know what the outcome will be, take the offer.
So that's a good transition into today's topic, actually, which is how to avoid the 4 mistakes that can kill a deal. I imagine that over the years, you've seen deals killed, right?
Yeah.
Safe to say. I find it interesting that you have like a list of the 4 things, or I guess it's the 4 things that you've seen the most, right? There could be more. Yeah. There could be more reasons why deals have been killed, but these are the most recurring ones. So goodbye, Frank. I'll see you later.
He doesn't want to hear about killing deals.
Frank only wants to talk about making deals.
Right, making deals. Me too. So the topic isn't about what kills deals, is how to avoid things that kill deals. Okay, yes. So let's
establish what they are, and then we'll talk about avoiding them.
Right.
My camera was like acting up, and I was like, let me turn it off before it just goes completely off. So I was replugging it, but I didn't know it was still good.
No problem. So I mean, I think that it's a topic nobody wants to talk about, honestly. I mean, buyers don't want to talk about LOIs that don't proceed and their rate. Sometimes you can see posts about specific buyers that actually don't close LOIs, and then you actually see a change in that buyer. So I think it's there's a power in our in our industry, in social media, and everybody must behave. So I think that. Everybody does behave. I mean, at the end, the seller must sell, a good business, and not a business that will fall, within a month in the hands of the buyer. And buyers are now very savvy about, what can happen. 2 years, 3 years in the industry. By now, they know what matters and what actually matters less. And they can move on even if there's an issue. So we wanted, I mean, the topics I picked the I call them the big 4 mistakes, because these are really things that are requirements, and these are the things that we actually focus on when we do our mini due diligence at the beginning of the process. So the first one, out of the 4, I think that the first one is actually super intuitive. it's intuitive for most. The key is trust, and I would say confidence. Okay, so you're selling your business to someone. It's an asset deal. You're not going to stay in the business. It's like selling a car. Take my car and buy, right? When you buy a car, you can go and check it before you buy it. And when you buy an Amazon business, you can check it, and you will check it, and they check it for 60 days. But there is some reliance on trust, because when I ask you, have you done any black hat, have you ordered reviews from this, have you ordered reviews from there, and things like that, these are, at the end, there are things that I cannot see whatever I do, and how it doesn't matter how much I dig into your seller central, I won't see what you've done, behind the scenes. So I do have to trust you. And when you hide things, they will, at the end, most of them will be revealed. And when you hide something, and it is revealed later, and the deal is closed, a buyer will go back and sue you for that, if it's something that caused negative effects, like less sales or dramatically less sales. And so, I can give you an example. If you pay for traffic outside of Amazon, to drive traffic into Amazon, and you don't show that you did that, let's say that you paid for rebates, okay, and you don't show the buyers that you did that. We had a case like that. The seller actually forgot to show it. He wasn't hiding it. It was just on his PayPal. He forgot to mention it when we created the P&L. And then later, very, late in the deal, we were almost closing the transaction. The buyer looked at, they look at your bank account, they look at all your expenses, they want to know that your P&L is actually correct. And then they found this expense and they asked, what is this? I mean, it wasn't a small thing. It was a few hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then he explained, and that created a big problem of trust. We were lucky in this particular case. He regained the trust. I mean, he explained what happened. And that was the person that I, knew personally. So I could attest to other things that he'd done. But at the end, that is very dangerous. And that's why you really, when you prepare the numbers, there's hiding and there's forgetting, and some things are just, you didn't do it on purpose. You just forgot about this expense. So very, very important to show everything. And on the kind of health side, buyers usually know. I mean, they find out. They dig and they dig and they dig and they find out. And if not now, then later they'll find out. So sometimes sellers ask me, I'm using this consultant. I'm thinking about having that expense from another account. Why? I mean, why are you doing that? And then they explain, yeah, because I don't want it to be part of my expenses, and then my exit will be lower because my profit will be lower, and then the multiple applies to that profit. So I always say, first of all, they'll know about the consultant. You don't need to hide. They'll see it in your bank accounts. Just don't hide anything. If it's something that the buyer won't have, we'll negotiate that. We'll ask to add it back to the profit. So you had the consultant because you don't know how to do PPC. That's not the case for most sellers. We'll negotiate that.
So you don't even know, like, just because you look at it that way doesn't mean that the aggregator potentially is going to look at it that way. And you could think that you're hiding it and doing yourself a favor when in reality you're not at all.
Yeah.
So transparency is key, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, we see sellers doing big efforts in the, while thinking it will help for example, salaries. They're afraid of, that all the salaries will look bad on the P&L because it's a company that has been using several brands. And what if, and then there's a new COO who is very expensive, but he does other stuff. So I'm paying it from another company. But they're going to see this COO. I mean, he's part of the team. He is working on this business, at least partially. just be completely transparent. And then when you deal with the case, you just have to do a good job of explaining. He's been working on the business, but he's also working on another brand. So this is 20% of his time. This is 40% of his time. So if we allocate the expense to, to this business, this is where we are. Just don't hide anything. They'll see it. They're going to go through all your accounts and they're going to see it. So don't do it. The last thing you want is a lawsuit. And, I want to tell you, when you sell a business, the last thing you want is to sell it and then not sleep.
Yeah.
That's horrible. I mean, what will you do? You'll keep the money and then wait if the buyer finds out what you did. If you did black hat, if you bought reviews at the beginning, it's fine. Just say it. This is the business. If they want to buy, they'll buy it. If they don't, they won't. I mean, buyers accept much more than you would think. By the way. If most of the businesses that we look at, in 2015, 2016, you could ask your sister to give a review, nothing would happen. I mean, you bought it from they were Facebook groups, remember? I mean, it was all over. You could do whatever you want, and it's fine, and buyers understand it. That was the reality back then, but since then it's been washed out by thousands of other reviews that are completely organic. So just tell the truth. Okay, that was the first one.
Okay, easy enough. Don't mislead the potential buyer.
Right. Say everything. Say everything. If you're hesitating, say it. Whatever it is, say it. If you're hesitating, to say that you haven't designed actually the packaging, it's your brother, it's your ex. Say it. Say everything.
Frank, let's take that to the real world for a second.
Yeah.
Give me some thoughts. Give me some thoughts on it. You're a big fan of just show up, be real, learn from your mistakes, all that good type of stuff. I feel like this fits in well with it.
Yeah, I mean, look, usually when I'm usually always talking on these podcasts. When I'm not, it's because the value here is a gem, right? And I always tell people, like, I'm a product of failure, right? Of making mistakes and learning. Thankfully, I learned a lot of them at a young age. So now, as you mature, you don't fall into those same traps. But I also feel like there's a community that we've learned from others' mistakes, right? Where we're able to see what someone did and not redo it again. And I love the fact that you said some people sell their business and then they can't sleep, right? Because they did it the wrong way. And right now, more and more, I have a lot of friends that are on Amazon, and at first they were like, I'm never selling, this is my baby. And now everybody's seeing numbers and they're contemplating about selling, right?
Yeah.
And the more and more that we see that happening, right, we need more guidance. And there's people out there, right? And I also believe that if your business is running and you're about to sell to a market, is make that investment to learn about what you're doing. Hire a professional. I always say that it's more expensive. Like, you think it's expensive hiring an expert, wait till you hire an amateur, right? And I live by those rules because I've done it in the past, and you quickly learn that cheap is expensive in the long run, right?
Right.
And this, it's everything in life, right? I remember when I was a young kid, my first car, my mom was like, "Listen, just go to Honda, get a brand new Honda. Who cares if it's an Accord? You're gonna be good." I was like, "No, I wanted a BMW. I wanted to look cool." So I went and got a used one, and quickly started realizing how much I had to invest into it to make it work, and how the appearance. So I think in everything that we do, especially e-commerce right now, since there's so many traps, there's so many loopholes, it's always good to affirm yourself before you make a decision. So I love it, and I think that is useful for a lot of our viewers, because all those people, and you know this, David, all those people that said they would never sell, they're all thinking about selling now, right?
Yeah.
And it's a life-changing opportunity, right? And the ones that are selling are quickly revamping to build another one to sell again, right? So I think the e-commerce world is going to be trending in the next couple of years and evolving in a way where we just need to be filled with information.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this actually takes me to the next topic, which is momentum. I think that, if you're doing it, you want to do it right. Usually it's a one-way street. I mean, you can go to market, and then if it doesn't work out, go back to market again. But it's not the same thing as coming it shiny and amazing. So we have seen, and that happens a lot lately. We see a lot of business owners who, they manage the business, and as long as everything is great, they continue and they continue. And then they get to a point where the business starts going down. They lose. They kind of lose control. The PPC competitors, with all the costs that went up, and the profit margins are going down, and this is where they decide to sell the business, because they tell me I cannot do better. In the hands of a good buyer, that's like the sentence that we, I think, get the most. In the hands of a good buyer, this business can be amazing. I just couldn't do it. But the truth is, I mean, you're in most cases the entrepreneur, the one who founded the business. In most cases, that person, she or he, is doing the best job. I mean, that's what you're doing all day from the beginning. You know the business for 5 years, so you may need help in certain cases, on, I don't know, on PPC or logistics or other things, but you know your business best, and that is so one of the most common mistakes is, as long as it's a great business, I'm keeping it, but when it starts going down, that's a good time to get rid of it. That's not how it works. Nobody wants a business that goes down, honestly. I mean, it's very, very hard to sell a declining business, especially, they look, and we see it again and again. They look at the last 12 months, but they really look at the last 3 months. They look closely at the last 3 months. And if there's a bad momentum there, if the business every month looks, worse than the month before, that's not a good time to sell, unfortunately. So what you have to do in this case is pinpoint the problems. What led to this decline? Speak with as many people as you can to understand what it is. Sometimes it's about the P&L, by the way. Just, go to a consultant, create a P&L. They'll tell you, in your P&L, it's clear that your tacos is horrible. So, I mean, things come out of the P&L. And sometimes it's just a look on the business of, someone in this industry can tell you where the problem is. In most cases, 95% of the cases, the seller knows. Seller knows what the problem is. So what you need to do in this case is work on revamping it, pushing the business back to track, and growing it back to the stage where it's at least stable, and then you can sell the business. If your business is growing right now and it looks good, there's right now an industry with amazing multiples. Try to do a projection for the next 6 months or a year, and see if it makes sense to sell it because of this momentum. I'm saying that because of those declining businesses. If everything was great for everybody, by the way, that was the case like 2 years ago. Everybody was just growing all over. Whatever you did, if you wait, you're worth more. You wait more, you're worth more. It's not the case anymore, and there are other risks of running Amazon business, which gives us a lot of work at the law firm. I think that you must always remember there's a momentum now. There's something happening in our industry now, and I want to go to business when I look good. So remember that, and then you'll know about the right time to sell, I think.
Yeah, very good.
You could take so much from that again and apply that to the everyday life. I feel like.
How do you apply to your business?
Well, Frank's always saying that, like, we did it. The first dinner that we had, Sellers Dinner 1, and I remember we walked out of the dinner, and he comes over to me. He goes, "All right, so we got to do number 2," and I'm drunk and I'm tired. And we had a beautiful event with over 120 people the first time around, and we didn't eat anything. I didn't eat a thing the whole night. Anybody who puts together an event knows that. And he was just telling me, all right, number two, and I couldn't hear it. I was like, I don't want to talk about number 2.
Right.
He's like, but Dave, the bottom line is, this is hot right now. We have all the sponsors lined up. Let's do this.
Uh-huh.
And sure enough, the next morning I woke up and he sent me the promo material for the second dinner, and we hit the ground running, and we took advantage of the momentum.
Right. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
again, just spilling it over into
So
the everyday, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
true.
mean, we all feel it. Everybody in this industry can feel it. I've been feeling it in, in our industry and in our firms for 6 years. We're like in a blue ocean completely. So yeah, absolutely. The third one, I think it's the most like legal and less fun to discuss, I think, but it's something, we've discussed it, under other podcasts in the past, but always important to remember intellectual property. It has become, and I'm not saying that only because I'm an IP lawyer. I could,
No,
and
it's
I
important.
may.
It's important. You have to let it goes back to the let the experts do what the experts do.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not it's not something you can just chance it. You can't just take a risk and say, oh yeah, who knows what, like you said, you could get sued for something like that, and
Yeah.
it's just it's not something to take lightly for sure.
Right. Yeah. Under intellectual property, there are so many things. One actually adds value, and that's patents. So a lot of clients that we see actually created new products. They design new products, and they've never registered it as a design patent or a patent. And that's a shame because these really add values. When we go to market with a business that has, design patents or patents, we just see many more interested parties. It's not just a look-alike business. That's how buyers are calling
When we
it.
say it adds more legitimacy, or is that too much of a stretch?
No, I mean, not. It's not about legitimacy. It adds innovation. It adds a flavor of innovation in your business. So, if you've created something anyway, protect it. Protect. It's really not expensive to protect. To register design patents, and those like $2,500 or $3,000 on the exit, they're worth much, much, much more than that. So remember that if you created something, first of all, apply for it. You'll see at the exit it's going to be worth it for sure. It adds more buyers. More buyers mean higher multiples. Higher multiples means much more money. So that's one under IP. And then the second one, who's like the king of intellectual property, which we discuss in every podcast, is trademarks. So for buyers, if you look at the due diligence list of a buyer, probably on the first or second section you'll see trademark. They will not buy a business that doesn't have a trademark properly registered in the specific country. So we've seen cases, for example, where sellers remember where sellers were applying for trademarks in Germany because it was faster to get
I
the
remember
brand
that.
registration. So we've seen cases where the seller sells in the U.S. but doesn't have a trademark in the U.S. It has a trademark in Germany. So we asked him, why aren't you covered in the U.S.? They said, yeah, brand registry, blah blah blah. Bottom line is not covered in the U.S. So we stopped the process immediately. We register, we expedited it, and then we went to market. That stopped it for like 6 months. Okay, so that I mean, it delayed it. Without a trademark, you can't have it. Now we had a case where an actual deal, a real deal, where the seller had a U.S. trademark and applied for a European trademark. The European sales were about 25% of the sales. And the buyer saw that the trademark wasn't fully registered. It was only like published, but wasn't fully registered. And buyer said, we cannot proceed with the deal until the trademark in Europe is fully registered. So we suggested, okay, so proceed with the US, but then leave the Europe maybe in escrow or something. No, we do not proceed until there's a trademark for every country fully registered. That killed the deal. That was the one thing that killed the deal. It didn't kill it. The buyer said, let's wait 3 months. The seller didn't want to wait 3 months. We went to the next buyer. We closed the deal, but that was really unpleasant.
Wow.
So I think that, looking at that, there are on trademarks, two main things. One, a trademark in the relevant country. Okay, you sell in Europe, get a trademark in Europe. You sell in the US, you sell in Japan, get a trademark in Japan. If Japan is only 2% of the sales, it's okay. I mean, don't panic. And then also the categories. We're like, for now, looked at a case, not on the exit part, but at the law firm, we looked at a case. We saw that they covered, and that happens a lot. They filed for a trademark initially when the seller was actually selling one product, but then this product didn't work out. He moved to another product, blah, blah, blah. He forgot what his trademark was about. And he now wants to prepare for an exit. None of the products that he sells are actually covered by the trademark. None of them. There's a trademark in this category, but not for the product. So that's very important. So you want to have it in the relevant country and the relevant products, to cover the relevant products. Very important. Third thing about trademark, and last one, and I'll stop talking about IP, is the trademarks in China. So that's actually tricky. If you're going to sell immediately in a month or two, I mean, that's not on the top of the due diligence list of a buyer. A buyer would buy a business even if you manufacture in China and you don't have a trademark in China. But if you go to market and you want to sell the business, you go to market and turns out that somebody stole your trademark, hijacked the trademark in China and owns it, a third party owns it, this third party can actually stop your products at the customs. And that's something that a big risk for a buyer, and that can kill a deal. So if you're going to sell your business in a year, 6 months, or like not right now, but in several months, you may want to secure the Chinese trademark. It's really not expensive and it's worth it. And then you would prevent someone from hijacking this trademark. So that was the last one around trademarks. So just remember, right countries, right category, right product, and then if you can add value with a design patent, just do that.
Awesome. I don't know why you're apologizing. You're maybe the most qualified person to advise on that third point. So everyone should be thanking you. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you. And then the last point, and maybe we'll end with that. The health of the account, suspensions and things like that. I mentioned earlier, I mean, buyers are more forgiving than you would expect. Of course, if a big percentage of the reviews are not authentic, that could be a problem. I mean, for some buyers won't touch it, and some will say, okay, but then you get a lower multiple because my risk is higher. So just factor it in, when they decide on the multiple. I mean, there are things, if you want to sell the business some days, I think it's time to take less risks on the health part. So if you look at large businesses, we all know what happened with inserts and review manipulations in the last year. That was really Amazon's focus in the last year. So what you want to do now is be very careful with that. That's the one thing that buyers are really scared of, review manipulation, because once you get suspended once, the second time is extremely, extremely hard to get reinstated. So if you're suspended the first time, you'll get reinstated if you do a good job with your plan of action. Second time, extremely, extremely difficult. So a buyer, when they see notices and past suspensions about review manipulation, they can be worried. If you have inserts, it's time to make sure you don't incentivize reviews. So if the insert is completely compliant, doesn't ask for review, sends to your website, they get a gift, that's fine. But then if they get a gift and then they're asked to give a review, that's not fine. That's an incentivized review. You cannot screen those who like the products and those who didn't, and then ask those who liked it the review. You cannot ask a review. You cannot ask a review with an insert with a free product. Okay, that's the bottom line. So
I think a lot of people stopped with the review request, but I don't think enough people looked at their inserts and saw whether that's following the new rules.
Amazon does.
Yeah.
Amazon does. They see this QR code, they love it. They check, they go to your, the ManyChat flow, and then they see what's going on at the end. Amazon does. They did that. We had that during a deal where Amazon said, please remove all your products and remove the inserts because they're not compliant. And that wasn't fun. So yeah. So just stop.
On all ends.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow. That was definitely the most content-driven episode.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was amazing. And anybody who's looking to sell their business, I feel like they need to watch this. They need to learn. Like this is a great way to just get a crash course on what to avoid to kill a deal.
Right. Exactly.
That was awesome.
How to survive the due diligence.
And if you really need help, once you go through all these 4 prep things, you reach out to Fortinet and you make sure you're using professionals to help you make this very, very important decision. Otherwise, you might be kicking yourself and losing sleep like Frank, wondering about what you missed and, how you could have made another $700K to your pocket.
Yeah.
And,
I hear you.
That would be a big one. No, Frank?
Yeah, of course.
Tell our audience why insomnia is a terrible, terrible thing to experience.
I hear you, man. Yeah, thank you so much. I thought, David, what happened? You usually have like a whole bunch of like people showing up. What happened today?
I wanted to focus on the content.
I love it. It's a good sign. It's a good sign. Yeah, well, thank you so much, man. I think I think that this is something that people are going to review and watch over again. Might be one of those. I usually never rewatch podcasts. That's what David does, but this one might be one of those that I'm just going to go back to and send it out to a few clients because I know that they're very interested in proceeding with exiting, and they should hear this before they do anything.
Definitely.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. We got a little Ed Sheeran as we wrap up here.
For me.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.